Welcome everybody to the pre-celebration connection. We are so glad that you are joining us this morning, 15 minutes before the 10:30 service here on Sunday at One Love Ministries. I'm Jordan and this is
Brandon. I still got the job, guys. I didn't get fired. If you were here last week, you'll know I was close.
He was on the rocks.
I was on the rocks, but I'm still here. So
He's
I'm
safe this week.
Excited to be back. Excited.
Yes, exactly. And why are we here?
So this is PCC, the pre-celebration connection. And like me and Jordan have said before, one of our favorite parts of getting to come to church is getting to fellowship and mingle before and after service. Well, we know that during COVID, a lot of people aren't coming to church. They're watching strictly virtually, but this is still an opportunity to get to mingle and connect with people. We want to let you know that we are real people here live right now. So please connect with us, chat. We have the live stream going on YouTube. We have it on Facebook. Anywhere you comment, we can see your comments and we get a chance to interact with you one-on-one and kind of get that same fellowship that you might get if you were here physically. So that's one of our favorite parts and we want to connect. So please, please, please comment. It makes it so much better when you guys talk to us. We want to hear what you have to say.
We really do. This is all about the back and forth. So go ahead, and even if you're watching on one screen, like if you have us big on your TV or something, and you don't see what we're talking about with the chat, go ahead and pull up our live stream on your phone or on a different device. I know you've got more than one somewhere. Go log on somewhere else as well, and so you can type into the chat as well, because I promise it's there. Or open a new tab. We were just talking about how magical it is that we can have more than one tab open. Yes, exactly. So open a tab, log in, go to our website, click on the live stream, and on any computer device, you'll see the chat pop up where you can go ahead and throw in your comments and let us know how you're doing.
Yes, ma'am.
So today's icebreaker question is, why does Jason look like a ghoul outside of the window right here? I don't know whose idea it was to put glass into a studio.
I don't know whose idea was to put
Jason
here.
Who runs all the tech here, can come and make faces at us the whole time. So he's trolling us.
He wants to be on camera so bad.
He does so badly. One day we'll let him in. One day. But today our icebreaker question is, what is the biggest weather event that you have...
Most extreme
weather event that you've been... I want to say trapped in, that you've experienced.
And we asked this because, as many of you know, the islands were hit with a lot of rain this week. There was some flash flooding. Side note, keep those guys in prayer because it really was a lot of damage was done on the North Shores.
Yeah.
But that's kind of what brings up the question. Mine personally, I have an answer because I've been through everything. I've been through 5 hurricanes.
Only 5.
Only 5. All over the world, actually. Virginia, Biloxi here. I've been through an earthquake when I lived in Richmond, Virginia, and I saw a tornado from real close. It wasn't close enough to where I went through, but it was close enough to be scared of it. So tornadoes I was like, that's a tornado. But
I feel like we should get you a tornado,
I lived close to a tornado.
Yeah, exactly. I got close to a tornado.
Which is kind of impressive. I'm not gonna lie. So I've been through everything, but I'm sure there's some out there who have been through worse.
Exactly. So if you are just joining us, please warm up your fingers. Go ahead and jump in that chat. We want to know, what's the most extreme weather event that you have lived through?
I think Jordan said snow earlier.
I think snow is the one that's stuck in my head the most. So I'm from West Virginia, which is oddly mountainous in a way. So it's far enough from the coast that you don't have ocean weather. And it's not a plain, so you can't have tornadoes. So it's really just like...
perfectly naturally protected.
Yeah, it's just some...
God's country.
I forgot though. At one point it did flood. And I remember being so mad because I couldn't float on a cabinet door in the dirty water of the basement of our church that was 3 or 4 feet high because I didn't have an updated tetanus shot. I was ticked. My dad was like, no. And everybody else is swimming through and having fun. My dad's like, no, you can't get in the muddy water. So anyway, that was one too. That or a ton of snow.
So yeah, what have you guys been through? I know there's a lot out there.
Yes, and good morning, Robbie from Kona.
Hey, Robbie.
He said it's still raining now there. Yes,
man.
And so the flooding it's probably not over. So really.
For those of you who aren't from Hawaii, this is winter. This is the rainy season, so we're getting a lot of rain. Last week is pretty much unstopped. So
yeah, landslides, lots.
Hopefully
of
it slows
stuff.
down for you, Robbie. Hopefully.
Hopefully. So if you are just joining us, this is a pre-celebration connection. Welcome to One Love. We're a non-denominational church. We study the Bible line by line. So go ahead and grab yours. Today, Waxer has a very interesting topical sermon for us. You're gonna love it. Stay tuned for that. But also have your Bible and a pen handy to take notes. We are so glad that you are here. Go ahead and introduce yourself in the chat if you would like to. We have hosts in there. They're there for you to answer any questions you have and to give you prayer if you need it. So go ahead and utilize them because they would love to talk to you, and we would love it if you said hi as well, and we will give you a
would.
shout out on air.
Makes
so
our job that much easier.
that much
I
easier.
promise.
All right, before we jump into today's topic, which is sharing your testimony, so start
good one.
mulling that one over. I'm going to issue a super quick correction. Not correction, just a side note.
Right.
Last week, Brandon and I were talking about I don't want to say it now.
Fruits. We were talking about the fruits of the Spirit.
Of the Spirit, because there's a list of them, right? Love, joy, peace, patience. But it was pointed out to us that the fruita, singular, of the Spirit is only one thing. Like all of the fruita the Spirit produces is good fruit.
Right.
And for some reason, like Brandon.
Well, we made the connection that when we're taught this as kids, you see the pictures, and it's always like oranges, apples, banana. Like
It's a
they
bunch of
associate all the
different
fruits with
kinds of
different fruits.
Yes.
So we just kind of defaulted to fruits of the Spirit. But
Yes.
then Jordan's husband actually pointed out that maybe all the fruit came from the same tree, so it's like an apple. These are minor details,
These are
guys.
minor details,
Like,
but-
Jesus loves you, we love you, but
Just remember, we're learning along with you. So
Right.
if you were interested in the fruits of the Spirit kind of concept,
Right.
be conscious that there's fruit and fruits.
Right.
So there you go. And
minor
yeah, if they
thing.
all grew on an apple tree, there would be multiple fruits, but they'd be the same fruit.
they'd be all the same. You guys.
Who cares?
get it.
Okay.
You guys get it.
I mean, we all care. We care
Moving on,
because.
moving on.
Anyway, this week we're talking about sharing your testimony, and if your testimony involves the fruita or fruita of the Spirit, be careful. But this week we're talking about sharing your testimony and why it's important, especially as a Christian, to be able
Right.
to have what I call a pocket-sized testimony.
Right.
So a bite-sized unit that you can pull out of your pocket and you can share what God has done in your life, kind of
Right.
at the drop of a hat.
Right.
So let me just recap in case anybody is here with us before we start talking about sharing your testimony. Let us know the most extreme weather event that you've lived through. That's what we're talking about. But Brandon, let's
Yes.
switch to yes. Like you've been paying.
I'm waiting.
I'm waiting. I know Brandon's so ready for this. Why should we be ready to share our testimony?
Well, this is a great subject, by the way. So I don't know if a lot of you have done the Next Steps program, which Jordan is proudly
Rockin',
advertising right
reppin'.
now. But they talk about this at the Next Steps program because, especially when you're new to the faith, a lot of times our testimony is really all we know about Christianity. We don't know a lot of the biblical knowledge or theology yet. And here in 1 Peter 3, it talks about how we must always, if someone asks about our Christian hope, always be ready to explain it, right? So
Yes.
a lot of times, like I said, we don't have the facts yet to truly be able to explain that, but we have our testimony. And I'm reminded of the story in John where Jesus heals the blind man. And he does the little spit and
Is this the spitting story?
I don't know, he heals a lot of blind people.
He does.
Well,
He likes
anyway,
to do
he
that.
heals the blind man.
I like the spitting one the
Right.
most, though.
He heals the blind man, and then after the blind man is healed, the Pharisees come to him and they start asking him questions, because that's what Pharisees are going to do. They're going to ask him questions. And they start asking him, like, hey, who did this? Like, when did he do it? Was he a sinner? Who is he? And the blind man says, look, I don't know if he was a sinner. I don't know who he was. All I know is that I was blind, and now I can see. And that was all the facts he had, and that's all the facts he needed. And a lot of times our testimony of how we used to be before we had a personal encounter with Christ versus who we are after we have a personal encounter with Christ is all we really need to be able to truly witness to somebody. It shows how our lives have changed. So it is very important to be able to kind of package this and give it concisely, because nobody wants to hear anybody talk for 45 minutes. But it is very important to kind of be to be able to present what Christ has done for you personally. So
Yes.
Yeah,
No, that's
it's
awesome.
awesome. It's
Thank you so
awesome.
much, Brandon.
Oh, thank you.
Appreciate that.
Thank you.
So the testimony is important,
Right.
and obviously God is number one. That is the most important thing. And so this isn't about, glorifying yourself or your story, but it's about glorifying God in your story and being able to share that in a concise way that
Right.
shows people, because what better testimony than what God has done exactly for you?
Right.
And I especially love what you've mentioned about being a new believer too, that sometimes when you don't have a whole lot to go
Right.
on, like you're not ready with like quotes and references and to like refute
Theology, yeah.
anybody on any
that stuff is
theological
important.
point.
You should
It
get
is. You'll
that
get
stuff.
there. But
Yeah.
when in doubt, you can fall back on how God has changed you
Absolutely.
in your heart. So what I want to know from you guys, and I know you're out there, so go ahead and chime in. We want to hear from you. What is your bite-sized testimony? What is your 1, 2, 3 sentence way of telling people what God has done
Right.
in your life? So start thinking that over. Go ahead and throw it in the chat, whether you're on YouTube, you're on Facebook, or you're on our live stream. Go ahead and throw it in there. We would love to hear from you. So if you're just joining us, this is the Pre Pre-Celebration Connection. I'm Jordan, this is Brandon.
Yep.
And we're talking about why we should be sharing our testimony and why that is important.
And me and Jordan actually learned when we were kind of discussing before that our testimonies are quite similar.
They are.
Quite similar.
Yeah.
And Jordan will kind of talk to this in a little bit because we've both struggled with the fact that our testimony maybe isn't as profound
Hard.
or powerful or it's not as extreme.
Yeah, extreme.
That's
yeah,
a good word
that's what it
as some
feels
that
like.
we've heard. So I'll let Jordan kind of talk about where she used to struggle with that. But yeah, we have a similar
We
upbringing.
do. So
Right.
if it wasn't evidenced by the fact that both Brandon and I learned the fruits of the Spirit in a song in Sunday school,
Yeah, Sunday
probably,
school, or-
right? We're
or summer
both church
camp or
kids,
something, yeah.
some kind of Bible camp,
school.
yeah. VBS,
There it is.
Vacation
That's what
Bible
I was
School.
trying to say.
If it wasn't evidenced by that, we both kind of grew up in the church,
Right.
and so there's something about growing up as a Christian. But
Right.
both of us never had the chance to go super far astray.
Yeah, we
And
would.
so you feel pretty goody two-shoes.
Right.
And that doesn't feel like a, quote, good story.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to encourage you, like I've been encouraged over the years, that just because I don't have this crazy transformation from like prison thug
Right.
to, pastor, that
Right.
mine's been a more gentle transition of just growing in my faith over the years since I became a Christian
Right.
with my parents when I was little, that there's always somebody who needs to hear your story. God knows your story. He gave you your story. Even if you don't have a crazy story, or if you do have a crazy story, even more, there's somebody who specifically needs to hear that God saves people with crazy stories
Right.
and God saves people with calmer stories.
Right.
So know that somebody always needs to hear that.
And all of those stories, whether they on the outside seem extreme, on the inside are all pretty much the same extreme. We didn't know Christ, and
Yeah.
we were living for self. And then we had an encounter with Christ, and now we give authority of our lives to Him.
Yes.
And that is a major transition, whether you used to do one thing and however you got to that point, it's an extreme
still a
type of change.
transition, yeah.
So don't ever feel like if your story is like ours, like we said earlier, I literally grew up in church. I got saved at a young age. But like most church kids, you kind of try some things for a while. And I got to college and tried some things for a while. And then realized this is not who I
Yeah.
need to be, and had my kind of
Yes.
come to Jesus moment where I made Jesus my God instead of the God of my mom and dad, which is a huge moment. So again, it's not. They probably won't make a movie out of my story,
Mine either.
but it is still an extreme change of the heart. So it's still a big deal, and should never be. You should never look down upon it.
Yeah.
Because you don't feel like your story is cool
Exactly.
enough.
It's the one God gave you anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So go ahead and chime in the chat. Let us know either what your bite-sized testimony is, or let me know what's something that you've struggled with as you've prepared to share your testimony. Because I feel like sometimes it's not a super easy thing to chew on.
Right.
A, it changes. B, you might feel a certain way about
Maybe
it.
shameful
C, maybe
or
maybe it's
embarrassed.
too dramatic or
Right.
you don't want to share it. Just let me know a quick bite. What are something that you struggle with? Mine was that mine was not exciting enough.
Right.
And I'm like, who wants to listen? Like, somebody share their testimony. And I was like, not me. Nobody wants to hear this.
Yeah.
So I want to jump to Robbie real quick. Thank you, Robbie, for jumping in. And so he said, fun testimony tip. Make sure that it's that your story is his story. Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. Tip number 2, no one can refute your testimony. Yes, that's exactly why we're saying it's great for a new believer. It's like,
Right.
nobody can tell you you're wrong. You're
Right.
like, God changed my heart. If you know God changed
No,
your
he
heart,
didn't.
you know that. Yeah, exactly.
No, that's good, Robbie, because I can tell you, me and Jordan love to talk, and we love to talk about ourselves.
We do.
So it really is a great tip to remember that my testimony is not about me. And Jordan
No.
kind of started this with that point, but it really is supposed to all point back to Jesus. So
Yes.
it's something that we have to remind us of. Believe me, we have to remind
Believe
ourselves often. But no, a great tip, Robbie. That is awesome. That's awesome.
Exactly. So thank you so much, guys, for tuning in today. We appreciate it so much. Let this be kind of a moment to spur you on to think about pulling that pocket-sized testimony just out of your pocket, kind of polish it off. Think about how you can make it his story.
Have it ready.
And have it ready,
Have it
because
ready.
you don't know.
You never know. When you see the opportunity, you want to be able to jump on it.
Yeah.
You don't want to tarry in that. So if you have it ready, if you've practiced it, maybe tell your life group friends or just your other believing Christian friends.
That's right. You practice
Practiced
doing it with your life
My
group,
life
so maybe
group
there's
does it
another
every
thing you
week
could
where
do.
we just kind of practice it so that way we're ready.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Brandon, for filling in for Bruce.
Thank you, Jordan.
I appreciate you so much. And thank you guys so much for joining in with us. We're so glad that you're here. Next week, we're going to be talking about missions trips. But for now, thank you so much for joining us for the Pre-Celebration Connection. I'm Jordan.
Aloha, and I'm Brandon. Y'all have a great day.